Hey y'all, it's Miss A. Today we're going to be reviewing the area formulas. There were 4 of them that we dealt with this school year. So let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to do one example of each, and then y'all will have some practice problems to complete. Alright, so area, the definition of area is the amount of space inside a 2D or a flat figure. So we're going to look at a parallelogram, a rectangle, trapezoid, and a triangle. Parallelogram and rectangles actually have the same formula, A equals base times height, but on the formula chart, of course, it just says A equals BH. But we know when these two are touching, it means multiplication. All right, so the formula chart just says A equals BH for both the rectangle and for the parallelogram. So here, a parallelogram is a quadrilateral where opposite sides are parallel and they are congruent, means they're the same shape or the same size. So here's a parallelogram. If this is 8, the opposite side is parallel, means they'll never touch. And if this is 8, then this side also has to be 8. Here, 6.71, this side is parallel to this opposite side, so this is also 6.71. Just like a rectangle, the opposite sides are the same. So to find the area, we're going to multiply the base times the height. Now, we only need 2 numbers, a base and a height, but they actually gave me 1, 2, 3 different numbers. So we have to identify which one is actually my base, which one is my height, and which one we actually don't even need at all. So one thing I told y'all is remember that the height, if you see a dotted line or a dashed line like we see here, that value is always going to be your height every single time. I don't care what shape you're dealing with, the triangle, trapezoid, parallelogram. If you see a dotted line or a dashed line, know that it's the height. The base is always perpendicular, means they form a right angle with that height of whatever the shape may be. So in this case, the base would be 8. And remember, I've always told y'all, I told y'all this school year, to never use a side that is slanted. So you can see here, this is a slanted side, so we wouldn't even need that value at all whenever we're plugging in to find the area. So now I'm just going to plug it in. Area equals my base, which is 8, times my height, which is 6. So 8 times 6 equals 48. And then we do measure area. This was meters, and we put the exponent of 2 because area is always measured in square units. So with the exponent of 2. All right, rectangle, just like parallelogram. It is a parallelogram with 4 right angles. Okay, so in parallelogram doesn't have 4 right angles, but a rectangle does. And just like before, the opposite sides are the same. So if this is 8, then this is 8. If this is 4, then this is 4. All right, we're going to plug it into the formula. A equals base times height. They only give me 2 numbers in a rectangle, so that's nice. This is going to be my base, and this is going to be my height. So we're going to plug it into that formula. A equals BH. Area equals my base, which is 8, times my height, which is 4. So my area is 32. This was inches, and they are squared. So rectangle and parallelogram, very simple. Base times height. That's it. Remember, when you see that on a formula chart, when they touch it, does mean multiply. So base times height. Just identify the base and the height and multiply them together. Remember to never use a slanted side. Never ever use a slanted side. All right, the next shape we're going to look at is a trapezoid. Trapezoid is probably the most complex formula out of all 3 of them. Trapezoid is a quadrilateral with only 1 pair of parallel sides. So right here, this side on top, the 3, and this side on bottom, they're parallel. If they were to continue in either direction, they would never touch. Now these sides, on the other hand, first of all, they're slanted, so we know we don't use them. But if we were to continue that up at a perfectly straight line, eventually they would cross, they would intersect each other. That means they're not parallel. All right, so the formula, like I said, was a little bit longer. We have A equals 1/2 times, the parentheses, B1 plus B2, close the parentheses, times the H. So your formula chart actually gives it to you like this, 1/2 parentheses B1 plus B2 times the height.
but we don't like that fraction. Why convert everything into a fraction or have to deal with that fraction if I actually have to, if I don't have to? So instead of multiplying by 1/2, we discussed how multiplying by 1/2 is the same exact thing as dividing by the number 2. So this formula, even though it says 1/2 times all of this, what we can really do is b1 plus b2 times the h, and then divide by 2 instead. Okay, same formula, it just take off the 1/2 and put a divide by 2 at the bottom. Okay, I suggest y'all do that on your formula chart when y'all take a test. Go ahead and change it so y'all can see that. All right, we're going to plug those values in now. Here, I'm only given 3 numbers. That's nice. I need a base 1, a base 2, and a height. They didn't give me any slanted sides to confuse me. Remember that we did say that the dotted line is always our height. It's very important on a trapezoid that you get the height correct. If you don't, then you're going to get the wrong answer. The height is the dotted line. You also know, in case there isn't a dotted line, sometimes the height can just be the side. It could be a solid line. The bases, base 1 and base 2, are always the sides that are parallel to each other. So the bases will never touch. So the 3 and the 7 are my bases. And it doesn't matter which one. I always put base 1 the top one and base 2 the second one. That's just me personally. And for this one, I actually don't have enough space on this paper, so I'm going to get a piece of notebook paper and write down that formula. So A equals, parentheses, b1 plus b2 times the height, and don't forget to divide by 2. So we're going to plug in these values, my bases and my height, into the formula. So A equals b1, which was 3, plus b2, which was 7, and the height, remember height's the dotted line in this case, so 6, and the whole thing gets divided by 2. Alright, so keep on going. We're going to do the parentheses first, order of operations. 3 plus 7 is 10. I'm going to keep it in parentheses because that 6 was touching, but we could have just put a X or a dot to show multiplication. Alright, so I've added that to get 10, bring down my 6, bring down my divide by 2, and now I'm going to solve this part. So 10 times 6 is 60, and then the whole thing gets divided by 2 to get a final area of 60 divided by 2, which is 30. And this was measured in inches, and of course they are squared. Now, if y'all remember, when I first taught this, instead of multiplying to get 60 and then dividing by 2, we could have divided by 2 one of the numbers first. So if I divided this by 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then 3 times 10 is 30. Same thing I would have gotten here. If I did 10 divided by 2, I would have gotten 5, and then 5 times 6 is 30. So just a little bit different way, same answer. All right, and then the last one we're going to look at is the triangle formula. It is a 3-sided polygon. So the area formula on your formula chart is A equals 1/2 BH. So 1/2 times the base times the height. But again, we don't like that formula. We like to do base times height divided by 2. So instead of multiplying by that fraction, we divide by 2 instead. So we're going to identify my base and my height from the shape. That's all I need. I only need 2 numbers. They actually gave me 4 here. So one thing I remember is that we always say the dotted line is the height, always. And then we never use the slanted side. So we're not going to use the 6 and the 8.49. Luckily, we don't have that decimal. And we also know that the base, like I mentioned earlier, the base is always perpendicular, means it forms a right angle with the height. So if you ever get confused, find the right angle, identify the 2 sides that make the right angle, and that has to be your base and your height. Okay, that's another way, in case those slanted sides are confusing to you. The 2 sides that form and make the right angle are the base and the height. So 10 and 5. I think I have enough room. I can, no, we'll do it here. No need to be squished. So area equals base times height divided by 2. So we're going to plug in my base of 10. So A equals 10 times my height, which is 5. And the whole thing gets divided by 2. Don't forget to divide by 2. I guarantee you that 50 is going to be an answer choice if it's a multiple choice. So we're going to multiply. We get 50, and the whole thing gets divided by 2. So the final area is 25. This was yards, and of course they are squared.
Again, we could have done the little divide by 2 first. Now, obviously, I wouldn't divide this by 2 because 5 divided by 2 is going to get me a decimal of 2.5, and I don't want to multiply a decimal if I can avoid it. But if I divided these, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and then 5 times 5 is 25. So, same answer. All right, guys, but those are the 4 area formulas. Just remember, instead of multiplying by that fraction on the trapezoid and a triangle, instead of multiplying by the fraction, divide by 2 instead. All right, and of course, the height is your dotted line. Your bases never touch in a trapezoid. I'm trying to think of anything else. Your base and your height are perpendicular to each other, means they form a right angle. If y'all have any questions over anything, please don't hesitate to ask. Y'all know I'm available on Zoom. Y'all contact me if y'all have any questions. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye, guys.